Historical Society, and we're delighted to have you here at the Common Council Chambers here in Port Jervis to show you our brand new exhibition on the works of John Newton Howitt. John Howitt was born in 1885, lived until 1958, and this exhibition that you're about to see today is the first major work of retrospective on his life since 1958. His paintings have been all over the country. They were sold at auction. He offered, at least at one point in his life, and a very short time after he died, his wife again offered many of these paintings to the city of Port Jervis. But unfortunately, the people in government at that time were not able to strike a deal with Mrs. Howitt, and so the paintings have all left. 3 or 4 of the paintings that are here are still owned by the city of Port Jervis, but mainly these are paintings that are in private and public collections. This exhibit has been sponsored by the city of Port Jervis, the Port Jervis Free Library, and also the Menacing Valley Historical Society. Our first painting is a painting of Mrs. Howitt. Bertha Howitt, and many might remember her as Mrs. Woods, was a school nurse here in Port Jervis from 1919 until 1955. She died in 1972. And this is a wonderful painting of her. This is from the Port Jervis Middle School. And when people talk about Miss Howitt, they often remember her Red Cross pin. And they also say to me that this is a very good likeness of Miss Howitt. This painting came to us in an interesting kind of way. We were planning the exhibit. We knew that it existed, and we very much wanted to have it with us, but unfortunately a student years ago had defaced her and had put a mustache on her. And at the last minute, the middle school's art teacher was able to restore her and her face, and the maintenance people up there at the middle school were able to regild the frame for us. And so this is really one of the most outstanding paintings in our exhibition here. And this is, as I said before, very good likeness. Miss Howitt lived along with John Newton Howitt on Orange Street in Port Jervis. And this is one of the finer paintings. Mainly his work is landscapes and illustrations of different kinds of things, but this is a very excellent portrait that he did. And we're not sure when, sometime before 1958, however, probably near the end of his career, though. And if you look closely, you can see students in the background. Here she is with an open book. Most people will not know this, but she was also a teacher in a one-room schoolhouse in Amity, New York, which is down near Warwick. So she had a long career. How she met John Newton Howitt, we're still not clear on. He had polio. She was a nurse, so there's been some speculation that perhaps they met each other through something of that, between the two of those things, but we're really not sure. They married, though, in 1930, and as I said, lived on Orange Street, just below where the present IGA is. Our next 2 paintings are very typical of his work that was done here in Port Jervis. This painting here is called The Wild Property. This is looking towards Port Jervis, and you can see Port Jervis on the right-hand side, and then Madam Morris on the left, and the mountains behind it. But this is very typical of the work that he did here in Port Jervis, and often he kind of went between very large paintings, very small paintings. This is typical of his smaller work, but the landscapes are where he really excelled here in our area. And this next painting is my favorite in the exhibition. This is of the Hawk's Nest. We think about 1943. Whenever John Newton Howitt painted the river, you'll often see canoes or rowboats in them. This is one of the turnoffs there on the Hawk's Nest. This is looking down towards Port Jervis, and there's the island. And of course, it's a wonderful fall scene. And this is in a private collection that was made available to us. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see his signature, very distinctive signature. As you see there, he wrote John Newton Howitt. He was known as Newton to his family members, and for most of his painting career, signed his name as John Newton Howitt. It's only in later years, during the late 40s and 50s, that he experimented for a while with different kinds of signature altogether, and called himself just John Howitt in his script writing. But this is very typical of his work here. Lots of color, and really catching the beauty of the area. Many of his paintings caught scenes that disappeared after the 1955 Hurricane Diane, and he also painted a great deal, a good many paintings of this area that are now changed because of the urban or suburban development, the automobile. Many of the things he painted are long gone now, so there's a historical perspective to his work as well. But this is one of the finer paintings in the exhibit. continue on around the room and show you some of the other paintings and describe them to you as well. This is a wonderful painting of the Benjamin Cuddeback house on Kingston Avenue here in Port Jervis, now lived in by Bob and Doreen Auchmuty. This is right across the street from Ed Smith's Auto Mall. People often say that John Newton Howitt's work reminds them of Norman Rockwell's work, and indeed they were friends. In fact, in one of the Rockwell museums, there are two of John Newton Howitt's paintings. But this is typical of his work. He painted a lot of local scenes. Unfortunately, this painting shows one of the problems that's happened to many of Howitt's paintings, and that is some of the paint's begun to flake off. And as a result of this exhibit, we're going to recommend to all the owners that they have restoration work done on the paintings and perhaps have them varnished after that, because if they continue to flake like that, of course, the image will be destroyed. This is a wonderful old house, though, early 19th century, maybe even late 17th century or 18th century house on East Main Street. And look at the wonderful trees there, and it's a great view. That unique front porch on it as well. This is very typical of how it's worked here in our area. This is a wonderful painting on of the road to Myers Grove in Godefroy, New York, just north of Port Jervis. Wonderful fall scene. This is, to my way of thinking, some of his finer work is his autumn scenes. This painting, you can still drive on this road, as a matter of fact, and see some of those trees. Over at the Port Jervis Free Library, we have a large collection of negatives and photographs and slides that he took of these various scenes that he would use later to paint. John Newton Howitt was a prolific painter, painted about 500 paintings during his time here in Port Jervis, and many of them were local scenes just like this, things that he had taken slides of at different times of the year to get different feels for them, and this painting is very typical of that. And this there's a number of slides of this particular location, so this must have been something that he was very anxious to capture on canvas. The painting below it is one of his favorite themes, and that is the Delaware River. He painted that more than any other single topic in his time here, and you can see again the two canoeists coming down the river. All of these paintings in this exhibit, except for one, are probably from between 1930 and 1958. And this painting of the river is very typical of his work. He creates or captures this is probably a late summer painting, and you can see there's a little bit of haze there on the mountains, and very much captures the feel of the river. And as I said before, he often puts a canoe or a fisherman in the background in these kinds of scenes. This painting, there's actually three of these here at the City Hall in the City of Port Jervis. These are all of the Bashikill Stream in Cuddebackville, and these three scenes depict the changing seasons. A fourth scene that was to be created was not completed because of the illness and subsequent death of the artist. The one painting, however, has been damaged. The paint is flaking, and we need to have that one restored. But they are all of the same scene. And again, as we said before, there were color slides taken of this particular view, and they are all at the Port Jervis Free Library. And apparently, he had plans to. He did this quite a bit with some of his paintings, and I'm sure that there are many more paintings out there that we haven't seen where he wanted to create 3 or 4 different images of the same scene. Very impressionistic, very late in life. These paintings are probably from 1957 or maybe early 1958. Understand that John Newton Howitt painted every single day of his life. He was prolific, and by any estimation, I would suspect he probably did at least 2,000 or 3,000 images during the course of his lifetime, maybe even more than that. And this was typical of his work. These are larger paintings now, and some of the paintings here in this exhibit are quite large, but they capture the feel of the Bashikill. And the painting that you're looking at